Well, I was here yesterday evening at the 4:15 Mass, remarking to myself that for the first time in 7.5 years as a priest, I was celebrating Sunday Mass on a Saturday at St. Joe's, which was a first. And so this is probably a first Sunday for many of us here this morning, which would normally be the 9:30 Mass here with the regular St. Joe's parishioners. And so for all of us, all of you here that are sort of moving over for these months whilst the church is painted down the road, I just want to extend a special thank you to all of the regular parishioner families here at St. Joe's for the welcome that you guys extend to the rest of the parish family. I couldn't help but remark last night, I thought to myself, we're all just such creatures of habit, and many of us have been, going to church for years or decades perhaps, but yesterday was not only a first for me, it was probably a first for just about everybody in the church. And so I said to them, well, I hope you picked really good seats, because those are probably going to be the seats that you have for the next couple months. So I hope you have a really good view, settle in, get yourself, make sure you put your name tag right on the back of the pew there so that everybody knows where you're sitting when you come into Mass. And so this is, we get to have, in a way, a new custom, for many of us as a church family for these next several months. I think it sort of pairs well with the theme of today's gospel, right, and of the liturgical celebration of the Holy Family, and how the context of the family is usually where we feel the most familiarity, where all of the patterns that are in a part of our lives, we get the day in and the day out. Just yesterday, I was up in Lansing with my mom and dad, my siblings, and all the nieces and nephews. We did our siblings' family Christmas yesterday, which we tend to do sometime during the week of Christmas, although more recently it has tended to be the Saturday after Christmas proper. My siblings, they have all of their little family Christmas traditions now, and so this is where we get to come back and be sort of a nuclear family again. And it's awesome, number one, because I love seeing my family, but number two, because so much of this time of year is where we get like these predictable moments where we're like, yes, this and this and this. Like, I know, for example, that whenever my family gets together, my littlest nephew, Levi, at a certain point is going to come up to me. He's like, I think he's 4 now. I can't remember if he's 3 or 4. I think he's 4. And he's just a little buzz-headed boy. And he's one of the little children, and I think all children basically have no bubble, but he has like a negative bubble. And so I know that when my sister's kids come, that Levi will eventually find himself right here telling me every single thing that is on his mind, asking me all kinds of questions, and just really wanting my attention. Just look at me. Look at me, Uncle Brian. Look at me. I know that all of the nieces and nephews at a certain point will say, Uncle Brian, can you play us that Linus and Lucy song? Because it's Christmas, and so they love the Peanuts songs. And my mom and dad have a little piano there in the living room that I used when I learned piano growing up. I know that at a certain point at the end of the dinner meal that my dad is going to get antsy before we start opening little family gifts, and so he's going to start doing the dishes. And he's always going to tell us, I'm not doing the dishes, I'm just rinsing. But it's not rinsing. Men just don't really, when they decide to get in front of the sink, they don't really rinse the dish. They just like, I'm just rinsing. And he's got the soapy water there, and then it's basically totally clean, and then he puts it aside, and he doesn't dry it, so therefore it's just rinsing. But of course, he's just cleaning the dishes. My mom, of course, beforehand is very busy getting everything perfectly ready so that the house is in totally perfect order, the table is set, the food is in the oven, the candies and the little treats are out. We have all of the little, adult beverages ready to go. My mom is already chilling the glasses in the refrigerator for the mimosas and all of these things. And so every year, right, we just get to sort of expect these types of things. And it's a part of the charm of it all. It's a part of the charm of this year. It's part of in a way, perhaps like the magic of this time. The holidays are certainly the times more than most that we do see family. And I would say for that reason, for all of us, this is what makes holidays either our favorite times of the year or perhaps our most challenging times of the year. Because they are the times where we get into the closest relation, we bear with, the closest relationships in our lives. The people that we grew up with, the people that we grew around, the people that came into our family, perhaps even sometimes the people that have gone out of the family. You know, we all have very different family dynamics. Some of them are very joyful and some of them are very difficult, you know, and perhaps most of us have a little bit of smattering of each. Things about our families that we love and things about our families that, you know, we wish could be healed or different or better or reconciled or whatever it may be. You know, it's such a consolation to understand that the human experience of being a family, of which everybody is a member, you know, we wouldn't exist if there wasn't a such thing as the family. It was the very first thing God did. God made when He made humans, He made them a family. He made them in relationship with each other. And He made this the very building block of what it would mean to be human. Jesus, when He became part of that human family, gave our families a kind of special anointing to remind us that all of the joys and all of the sufferings and all of the mysteries of humanity were something that He was going to be willing to take on as well. But there's something quite important about how the Scriptures reveal God's plan for the family. And that's why that first reading that we heard when God was talking to Abraham, and that second reading was from the book of Hebrews that was reflecting on God's promise to Abraham, and even the gospel passage where we have the presentation of Jesus in the temple for their purification 40 days after, was it 40 days? I think it was. Don't quote me. There was a specific number of days. I think it was 40 for a male child, but I might be wrong on that. But at any rate, they were going to complete the dictates of the law as a family. And there's this really interesting line, you know, in that passage that perhaps is easy for us to skip over because, you know, we don't live when they lived with the Jewish customs that they had. I think this is something that I've commented on before, and it's one of the most, I think, remarkable parts about the passage. It says that when they went up to Jerusalem to present Him to the Lord, it was because He was the firstborn, and God commanded through the law of Moses that the firstborn must be redeemed, for he shall be consecrated to the Lord. And then it says that Mary and Joseph were there as a part of that consecration, as a part of the redemption of their firstborn son, to complete the sacrifice that was required of them. And this was, in a sense, quoted from the Old Testament here, to offer the sacrifice of a pair of turtle doves or 2 young pigeons. A pair of turtle doves or 2 young pigeons. That was a sort of a direct quote from the law of Moses in the Torah. Now, when a family went to redeem their firstborn son, that redemption required an animal sacrifice. And if you had the means, it was going to require the best of your flock amongst the sheep or the goats. But if you were poor and you had nothing, and you had no means, you were still required a sacrifice. And so that sacrifice was not something big and expensive. It was 2 turtle doves. That was the offering that you gave for your son, for your firstborn. And so when the gospel says that this is what Mary and Joseph did on behalf of Jesus, what it reveals is that Jesus was born into a poor family. Jesus was born into a poor family. Mary and Joseph were not of great means. They didn't have all kinds of land. They didn't have all kinds of sheep and flock. They had enough to subsist, to take care of their own and their little sort of house in their little community, in their little neighborhood where they grew up. But they did not have a lot of stuff. They didn't have much to give God or each other. The only thing that they could give was the things that they had. And if they were not a family of great means, what is it that they actually had to give? Well, the only things that they really had to give, that they had a lot of, was their time and their love. There wasn't a whole lot of other gifts, possessions, things of value for them to offer to God or to each other. But because of God's promises, they were able to give and receive these. these particular things, which, as it turns out, happen to be the greatest gifts that we give and receive as being members of a family. It's perhaps the kind of distraction that our modern world deals with, that we do celebrate the birth of Christ, and we do live in a world of great means. We live in a country of great means. I think all of us, in comparison to first century Jews, live literally like kings and queens. They would be shocked at the kind of the greatness of our lives, even if we believe perhaps our lives to be humble. And for that reason, right in our own days, so much of the aches and pains of our family lives occur when we are no longer able to give each other what it is that we most want anyways, which is our time for each other and our love for each other. And so often it's the stuff, the things, the pursuits, the other sorts of dreams that distract us away from what is truly at root of God's promises, from Abraham all the way to Jesus, all the way to the present day. God gave the greatest joys to those who accepted his promises. And his promises come to those who know the true value of what it is they actually have to offer. And so when Jesus became a part of this human family, it wasn't simply because he wanted to give Mary and Joseph the greatest joys of our human condition, being a mom and a dad, being able to parent a son, being able to offer their time and their love for each other. It was also because Jesus wanted to expand his family and make the whole human family a part of his squad. When we come to church, it isn't just because, we're neighborhood fellows and we happen to live nearby each other and this is where we happen to end up on a Sunday morning. It's because Jesus has said to each one of us, I want you to be a part of my family. I want you to be a part of my family. And when Jesus wants us to be a part of his family, what is the kind of promise that Jesus is making to each of us? He says, you know what? I know all about the joys and the pains and the sufferings and the mysteries of human family life. His own family was filled with lots of drama. It wasn't like his birth was under natural circumstances. His family may very well have been shunned by the neighborhood because Mary, quote unquote, conceived out of wedlock, so far as it seemed from the outside. That's probably what else could have people thought about her and about Joseph. And perhaps maybe about the suspect nature of Joseph's own life, if he was still willing to take, this woman of, sort of worldly pleasure who evidently found another way to have a child without him. What would that have said about his character? It's not like their family life looked a whole lot cleaner necessarily than ours. They did, after all, lose their son for 3 days at one point in his young life. That was probably pretty distressing. They had to flee their own home because they were being pursued. Their own lives were being pursued. They had to flee to a foreign land for 7 years before they could return and have to start all the way over again. It's not like their life looked perfect. But what they had, most important, was what exactly the gift that they gave to each other. Because they trusted in God's promises, those things of greatest value, their time and their love, was what they exchanged with each other every day. And that's what made their lives full and holy and complete. And we come to church every Sunday because we're members of Jesus' family who wants to give us these very gifts. You think about that, when we're on this journey of life and where we all end up together, and Jesus wants to be a part of his family. And, in heaven, how much time and how much love is there? Never ending. Never ending. The gifts that Jesus has to give to all of us. If we had to exchange, if we had to choose, like would I rather have stuff? Would I rather have pursuits? Would I rather have distractions? Or would I rather just be with the people that I love and just get to be with them forever? It's kind of a no-brainer. All of us would really hope for these things. And I would say that we would even hope for these things in those strained parts of our families that we wish could be different, or we wish we could be together again, or we wish the suffering or the evil or the separation, never happened, because we all dream for the happily ever after. It's the very thing that God dreams for us. And when we celebrate this feast of the Holy Family, God reminds us that those dreams are never in vain. We just have to know of what those dreams truly consist and commit ourselves to pursuing those gifts that are most valuable for us to give to each other. The gift of my life is oftentimes nothing more than the gift of my time, and the gift of my love.